A loaded show to take you into Memorial Day weekend. Does Ben Johnson have Hall of Fame aspirations? Of course he does. Mark Potash is going to be joining the legend. And of course, more stadium news. Can't wait to talk about it all. This is the CHGO Bears Podcast, and we're starting right now. That's right. We are back here on the CHGO Bears Podcast. I'm driving the ship today. I am your host, Greg Braggs Jr. Alongside me, as always, here on the CHGO Bears Podcast is the one and only Mark Carman. Mark Potash will be joining us here in just a few minutes. We got some stadium news we're going to talk about here later on. We could have started the show with the stadium stuff because that seems to be all anybody's talking about today, but that seems to be all we've been talking about this entire offseason. So figured we'd have some fun to start the show. But before we get into that, we have a special announcement, Mark Carman, that we just got off the phone with our events people. Excited to release this to the people. Man, he's muted.
Mute me.
Yeah.
There you go. Thank you very much. Or I could have unmuted myself, I suppose. First of all, Greg is my mafia boss today. He's taking control. This is against my will, but I'm supporting him in it because I love him, and I think he's going to do a great job today leading us to the promised land. So, Gregory, don't mess it up. Second of all, the big news of the day, outside of the fact that apparently CHGO Bears is making an impact on the stadium search, you can thank us now, thank us again, thank us later when they end up in Chicago, or don't end up in Chicago, because whatever happens, we deserve credit. But what we do know is that we're going to Miami, Miami, and you are invited December 10th. To the 14th, that's right, Bears, Dolphins, right in the thick of the playoff Super Bowl. Hopefully, all of that push. We have a unbelievable trip down to Miami, round trip airfare, going down to Fort Lauderdale on American Airlines. We got a hotel at the beautiful Westin in Fort Lauderdale Beach. We got airport transfers. We got welcome Bear Down happy hours. We got a Bear Down boat cruise. We got a Bear Down tailgate party. We've got game day transportation. And yes, we've got you your upper level game ticket as well. You want to go lower level, there's a $200 upgrade to go downstairs. Wherever you want to sit, we got you. We got swag bags. We got VIP commemorative credentials. There will be on-site coordinators. We're doing it all courtesy of our friends at Big Game Travel. Big Game Travel going down to Miami. And pricing is all there for you. Go to our website, ALLCITY.com. Go to the events, and there it is right there for you. And yes, we have a code, CHGO Miami, which gives you a $100 discount on the trip, not on your deposit. You can make a deposit today, $250. And there's all sorts of different plans available. You can go air or non-air. There's the land trip, there's the air trip, and there's actually even different days. But we're the 3-day trip with us down to Miami. Get in there, live the dream. All taxes, all resort fees, everything. It's going to be amazing, and we hope to see each and every one of you down in Miami come December.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. Can't wait for that. It'll be here before you know it. I mean, training camp will be here before you know it. I mean, it moves fast once the football season gets started. So shout out to Big Game Travel. Shout out to everyone working hard. Spencer, over in Denver, our head of our events. He's been putting a lot of work into all this to make sure that we all get to have the most fun, and we're going to make sure everyone that joins, that's been on our trips before, that are coming on this one for the first time, You guys are going to have a lot of fun. You're not going to regret. I've never been to Miami, so I'm excited for it.
Well, breaking, Greg, and I was talking with Spencer and Jake Flanagan after our call this morning, and what we've decided is that we actually are sending you down early to make friends and lay out the land and do all of the fun stuff, golf and all the dirty stuff too.
Yep. You can get the 3-day package, but if you get the 4-day package, you have a strong likelihood of going golfing with me that day. So we'll see.
Well, you're actually on a 7-day only Greg package.
Well, you know me. You never know. I might get into that. But let's get into this because I know Potsy's going to be joining us here shortly. And there were some things that I've kind of come across the last few days that I found interesting. And I kind of wanted to set you up for this because there's a couple videos. Once I saw one, and then when the other one came across my timeline, I'm like, we got to talk about this because, Mark, I don't know if you came across this or not, but I heard Robert Mays on the Athletic football show talking about some of the conversations he's had around the league regarding Ben Johnson. And obviously everybody here in Chicago loves themselves some Ben Johnson. But I wanted to share what Robert had to say. Then I wanted to piggyback off that with another story that I think is really going to tie all this together. So here is Robert talking about some of the conversations he's had regarding the Chicago Bears head coach.
You got it. Hang in there.
Talking about Ben Johnson. I can't tell you what wild people have said to me about him this spring. And this is people that have coached with him. This is people that have coached against him. This is people that have nothing to do with him. I had a coach that's worked with him say to me in Indy when we were sitting there, and he said this so matter-of-factly, it was like kind of jarring to me. And he goes, yeah, he's going to be one of the greatest coaches of all time. I can't believe how people are already talking about Ben Johnson. I can't tell you.
There it is. There's Robert Mays talking about Ben Johnson there and some of the coaches that he's talked to saying Ben is going to be the greatest of all time, Mark. And you obviously are somebody that is familiar with some of the greatest of all time. You covered Michael Jeffrey Jordan once in his heyday. So before I set you up for this and give you the entire floor, I wanted to share with you this story from Leonte Carew, wide receiver from the Dolphins, who was once upon a time in the same room as Ben Johnson when he was just an assistant coach. And this story to me is electric and ties this whole thing together and really ties Ben Johnson's mentality even 10 years ago. We know what he's all about now, but this is the vision that Ben Johnson had, and I find this to be pretty fascinating.
All right, so my greatest Ben Johnson story is, first of all, he absolutely loved me. Even when I was messing up, he loved me. He used to always say to me, like, you love football. I know you love football. You just got to get straight. Like, but you're one of those guys. And I remember he came in the receiver room one day, and Jarvis Landry arguably was probably top 5 receiver in the NFL at this time. I mean, him, Odell, all these guys were top notch. And he ripped Jarvis in front of the whole wide receiver core. And he's like, I want to be at your Hall of Fame speech one day because that's my message for you. That's where I want to see you in a gold jacket because I know where I'm going. And he literally points at himself and he goes, I know I'm going to be in a gold jacket one day as a coach. I know that about me. And This was like before he was even like calling plays. And when I tell you the guy loves football, he used to leave the facility at like 1 a.m. and be there at 5. Like he's on a football adrenaline rush. He loves football.
There it is. I mean, I don't know. For me, like hearing those two things kind of put together, I know we hear a lot of great things. We see a lot of great things firsthand of Ben Johnson, but to hear a player talk about Ben Johnson's Hall of Fame aspirations 10 years ago. So I guess my question to you, Mark, is this getting way too ahead of myself? Because you were there at the Chicago Stadium watching Michael Jordan early in his career. Like, would you have said in the first 2 years of Michael Jordan's career with the Bulls, this dude's going to the Hall of Fame, this dude's tenacity and will to win is unlike anything I've ever seen? Because for me, that's how I feel about Ben Johnson, but obviously I'm a meatball.
Well, I mean, we're talking about two different things here, Bragalicious. Talent and effort on the court versus coaching. I mean, those are two different things. It wouldn't have mattered what I would have said after year 2. What I think if you're going down that road, Bobby Knight coached Michael Jordan in the Olympics in 1984 before he played one game in the NBA. A guy who knows more about basketball than most people that are watching this podcast right now who are hoop fans will ever forget. And he said, "This is the greatest player I've ever seen play. Athletic-wise, competitive-wise, he laid it all out before he played one game in the NBA." So he knew, and the general was right. So, listen, it's not just Leonte Carroo. It's not people talking to Robert Mays. It's not, Tyson Bagent, friend of the program here, who's, was calling him a 5-star staff and is, thrilled to be partnered with Ben Johnson. I mean, we're seeing it. This is, I don't know if he's going to the Hall of Fame or not going out to the Hall of Fame. I don't really care, to be honest. What's relevant is that the Bears, I think it's very obvious the Bears have the best coach that they've had. And I would go greater than Ditka because I think Ben's going to be more grounded. But let's not completely disrespect 89 and the great Mike Ditka, who got the Bears to a Super Bowl. So we'll put him on the mantle until Ben gets him there. But he has the opportunity to pass him. 1 year in, 11-6, a playoff win. That's a phenomenal start.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. I don't know. For me, I get it. We're talking about a player versus a coach, but like you said, you heard Bobby Knight give that seal of approval to Michael Jordan. Then you hear, who Robert Mays is talking, the greatest ever. And to me, I think that is where, I want to be present in the moment with what I'm seeing. I've been waiting my whole life for a Bears team like this. I've been waiting my whole life for the Bears to have a quarterback. I've been waiting my whole life for the Bears to have a prolific offense. They were top 5 in the NFL in offense last year. And that was in year 1. And for me, there was a tangible difference in what I saw at training camp, from a level of intensity to attention to detail. And then obviously the results followed suit. So, obviously it's hyperbole and Hall of Fame is so far down the road. But at the same time, when you put what we've seen last year as the Bears head coach, when you see what he did in Detroit, I mean, think about that. Detroit, who was notorious for, 0-16, fans with bags on their heads, no success as a franchise whatsoever. And then he leaves that organization with their final year. They had 70 touchdowns. He comes here in the first year as head coach. They have their most touchdowns ever in franchise history on offense. So I get it. It's crazy to say, but it's funny to think about 15 to 20 years from now, what we're going to be saying about the Ben Johnson era and how everything changed potentially.
Yeah, look, if I'm a gambling person and you give me odds on Ben Johnson winning a Super Bowl or not winning a Super Bowl, I would make the bet that he will. I would bet I would, if he was a horse race, can I bet him to do this, and that? I would, I'd spread money around. I'm a believer. I have been for a long time. So how high is up? Who knows? But I mean, the most important thing that he did in year 1, if you want to just, kind of, to me, bottom line, what happened, Caleb Williams talked about their relationship at the beginning of the year. His words, fragile. All right. Well, that's a long journey from fragile to where he ended up and going into year 3. So how do you get to the most important guy on the roster and unlock his talent? That was his number 1 job. Seems like he did a pretty good job at that. And he did that all with a defense that was injured and couldn't get to the quarterback. So, the roster comes together. Again, that's why I would make all the bets, because I hopefully they'll be able to do that, and maybe they made some big steps this offseason. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, appreciate you.
Mark Potash will not agree, by the way.
Well, I appreciate you bearing with me there. I really enjoyed that story from Leonte Carroo. I came across my algorithm on Instagram, and I just love hearing those kind of behind the scenes stories about Ben. And this is something that was from 10 years ago. So I thought pretty cool and tied some things together. So shout out to Leonte, shout out to Robert Mays from the Athletic Football Show. Our girl Katie over there is their lead producer. We appreciate, a little bit of content here to get things going. But when we come back, the legend, our good friend, Mark Potash, will join the show, and we've got much to discuss. I'm excited to hear from him. So hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and when we come back, we will talk to Mark Potash.
Shout out to our friends to start the day at Sunnyside Dispensary, elevating your collapsing baseball season on the north side. Gregory, you going out there tomorrow? Astros Friday?
No, I won't be there tomorrow, but I am built for 162. So it's a blip. Okay. It's a blip, but a 10-game winning streak's just around the corner. Sunnyside's going to elevate us to that level.
Sunnyside is your home for judgment-free shopping. You can shop at their Wrigleyville store, and you can shop the crazy selection. 100 different amazing strains to choose from. Easy online ordering, in-store pickup, tons of stores, or just go to their website for only the best under the sun. That includes 50% off the 50 of your first 3 online purchases. You enter the promo code HICHGO, HICHGO. Put that in a checkout to qualify. Sunnyside Dispensary, only the best under the sun, and only for 21 and older or Illinois medical card holders.
That's right. Shout out Sunnyside, and shout out to our good friends over at Xfinity. And as a proud customer of Xfinity, I want to tell you, this is your opportunity to have reliable and intelligent Wi-Fi. But most importantly, you get to keep that intelligent and reliable Wi-Fi at the same price for 5 years. That is the Xfinity 5-year price guarantee. It makes everything work in your home in perfect harmony, like a super intelligent Wi-Fi with a sixth sense. Lets you stream the game even when the whole family is trying to stream their different things. And here is the best part: no annual contracts, no hidden fees, and Xfinity's best equipment included. So take it from me, a lot can change in 5 years. You can go from a idiot bricklayer to an idiot podcaster, but you can also keep your Wi-Fi at the same price, and that's as good as it gets. So lock in your price and unlock the possibilities with Xfinity. Learn more at Xfinity.com. Xfinity, imagine that. Select plans only. Restrictions apply. All right, we're back here on the CHGO Bears Podcast, and joining us once again is our good friend, the legend, Mark Potash. Appreciate you jumping on. How you doing, Mark?
Thanks, Greg. Garm, good to see you guys.
Potsy, we miss you. Thanks so much for making time. I was, every day I ask Greg, can we book Mark Potash? And he always says no. And then finally yesterday he said yes, and it's very nice of him. Potsy, let's start here. There's a billion ways we can have a conversation today, but I'm just curious, your read on the stadium situation. I'm fighting, Mark. I'm still fighting, the lone guy fighting for the Bears to end up in Chicago. Mary Ann Ahern, who's like, I don't know, way more credible in this show, is talking about how there was some movement back to Chicago, which seems completely ridiculous. I actually went as far, Mark, I'm sure you're watching the show every day, but in case you missed it, like, listen, if they're leaving Chicago, you could sell me more on Hammond than Arlington Heights at this point, because maybe it'll help some people versus just going out to the suburbs, and I don't trust the deal they'll make for Illinois tax-paying wise. But anyway, what's your read on the dysfunction? Let's use that word that's happening right now.
Well, that's a good word, Carm. At this point, I would like to see them play at Wrigley Field, the way things are going, and just go back in time in history. Excuse me, because it's just so frustrating that they can't seem to get this done. I still think it's going to be Arlington Heights. I think it'll end up being one of those last-minute deals, much like the state legislature or the politicians kind of toyed with Chicago when the White Sox stayed in '83. It came out of the very last minute. I think it'll be one of those type of deals. I don't consider Indiana a bluff. I mean, obviously that's very real, but I just think that would be the worst, no offense, Greg, the worst case scenario for them. I just think it's a bad argument on their part to say that for anyone to say that Indiana is logistically the same distance from Soldier Field or closer than Arlington Heights, when it's their fan base is clearly, there's no doubt their fan base is clearly more it'd be a better convenience for people in Arlington Heights. That's the best place for them. I've seen the plans for it. It's like I said at the time, very unbear-like. It's kind of not surprising that it's kind of fallen apart because it just seemed like, wow, this is strange. I was at that meeting at Hersey High School where they displayed all their, the big plans. It was so grandiose. It was so complete. It was like, wow, did the Bears really come up with this? And it's so good. It was almost too good to be true. And sure enough, it was. I go back to the same argument, making not argument, but the same point of saying it's so Bears-like that they had a guy in Ted Phillips who got this thing together. And then they hired a president to replace him who wanted to go anywhere but Arlington Heights and wanted to go the exact opposite direction. That's why they're where they are. You can say all you want about the politicians and the state legislature not playing ball with the Bears, but that's Kevin Warren's job. That's what Ted Phillips did in 2003. The Bears had a heck of a time getting a new stadium in the 80s, the 90s. When Michael McCaskey was kind of in charge of it. And that's why Ted Phillips, one of the reasons why he got promoted was to get that deal done. And he did it because he politicked. What you can say politicians can say it's on the back burner. Well, it's Kevin Warren's job to put it on the front burner. That's how politicians operate. That's what politicking is all about. I think that's where the Bears have failed. They hired Kevin Warren. It's so ironic. I said this before. Kevin Warren is, as you guys I'm sure can see, is the ultimate politician, for good or bad. He's just the ultimate politician, and yet his inability to politic this thing is one of the reasons why they're in this situation. They should have stayed. They should have stayed with Arlington Heights all the way through and gone. Everything would be in motion. So anyway, to answer your question, I think they're going to still end up at Arlington. I think it's the best deal. I think it's the best place for them for a lot of reasons. And I guess I'm more hoping than anything else that will win out.
Well, I mean, I don't want to string the stadium talk too far along with you here, Potsy. There's so much to get into, but at the same time, it is relevant. And as the resident region here, I guess I will push back a little bit. I agree that Arlington Heights is the best location for the Bears just because of the amenities, the train station coming through, the highway right off the location, the airport just a stone's throw away. All of those things make a lot of sense. I think Bears fans are spread out all over Illinois, including Northwest Indiana and, right there across the border in Illinois and Hegewisch and some of those smaller towns, and now you can probably fairly make the argument there's probably more season ticket holders that are closer towards Arlington Heights. I don't think any of those people or the large majority of those people are not giving up their season tickets. That I would call their bluff on that. And as far as Bears fans, there's plenty, if not 95% of the people that live in Northwest Indiana are Bears fans. So, and the commute is much better to Hammond. I don't care where you're coming from. Arlington Heights, I think the commute's going to be pretty rough. That being said, I did see Mike North talking about this on Twitter earlier today. I think that, on Sunday, commute isn't the same as during the week. So game day traffic is what it is, regardless if it's on the lakefront, Hammond, or Arlington Heights. But I do think it is a similar commute in terms of where it is at Soldier Field to where it potentially could be at Wolf Lake. All of that being said, I do agree with you that Arlington Heights is the better location because of the amenities, and it is a nicer area than Hammond as it currently stands right now.
Yeah, I see your point. I do think that maybe it is more convenient. I was born on the southeast side, 10 minutes from where the stadium is going to be. And so I'm familiar with that commute and going from the southeast side north and south and whatever. So I get that, but I like I said, I think it is. I think it's the best spot. I will say this, and I can't prove this, but the Bears these are kind of good times now. In bad times, I think that stadium in Indiana will be much emptier.
I agree.
Than in Arlington Heights. And we all know there are bad times in Chicago Bears history. And I think when the Bears are bad, I think you're going to see a much more empty stadium in Indiana than you will. And I can't prove that, but that's my take on it from years of experience of being a Bears fan.
Real quick, Carm, but I think the one thing, and Hogue has brought up this, and I think Albert Breer did when we talked to him at the Super Bowl, and I think we all kind of get lost on this conversation in terms of focusing on just what they would do on game days for Bears. We're talking 9 days, 9 games, 9 or 8 games a year. The bigger question is how they would sell that area during the non-Bears game days. And that is where I think that's more of a stronger point of the concerts, the Final Fours, even when there's nothing going on and you just want to go over there for food and drinks or whatever festival they're throwing there. Those things I think would sell better in Arlington Heights versus Hammond. The game day stuff, I don't think it's going to be a problem no matter what. Bears fans are going to show up.
All right. Look, they belong in Chicago. They're going to, that's the bottom line. And so neither of these locations are palatable for me, but we'll move on because we're going around in circles here. Potsy, what I saw you did a thing on markpotash.net on Dylan Thieneman, kind of like loosely comparing him to Urlacher, and I'm just curious overall your thoughts on the draft and the Bears kind of being very specific to the way they want to construct their team. Nobody thought they'd be taking a tight end as early as they did, and then a specialist in Xavion. How are you looking at it?
Well, Carm, I've seen Ben Johnson operate now, for 4 seasons as an offensive coordinator, head coach, and everything I've seen says that anything they do for him or for his offense is going to be a good pick. It's going to work. I'm at least at the beginning, whereas before you might be skeptical about it. Now I'm on the other end, and I say, hey, if he thinks that a tight end is the right pick at that point, history has shown that whoever he inserts in those positions, he wins. So I like the way they did the draft. I like the way they went defense with a really intriguing, versatile player. Like I said, I mean, I don't think the Thieneman will have the impact of Urlacher overall, but I really think he has the potential to be like if Urlacher had been a safety, which he was in college at New Mexico, and let's say some teams had seen him as more of a safety in the NFL. I think he can play that kind of role where he maybe can't make the impact like Urlacher did overall, but he can have like an Urlacher-like impact as a safety, and I think that's very intriguing, especially in this defense. My concern with the overall picture, what the Bears are doing is they're building a defense for Dennis Allen, which I guess is good. But how long is when Dennis Allen's not here? Do you have to change back now and reconstruct everything? How long is it going to be a Spagnuolo situation where they're here for years? You don't know. When the Bears get offensive players, their head coach is going to be here, and plus there's proof that those guys are going to work out. Dennis Allen's a very good defensive coach, and I think a coordinator, and I like the idea that they're getting Dennis Allen guys. I think their defense is going to be better than people think. But I guess my big picture is like I'm not as confident when they get scheme specific guys. I think that's a really kind of slippery slope when you do that, with the exception of a guy like Ben Johnson.
Well, the first part of the show here, Greg played a piece from Robert Mays over the Athletic saying that he's talking to people who think that Ben's going to the Hall of Fame, and Ben has told people that he's going to the Hall of Fame. You go back, 10 years ago.
You're talking about Ben Johnson in the Hall of Fame already?
Yeah,
I did.
Let's get all.
I know you would be shocked to learn that I built a segment to start today's show as Ben Johnson to the Hall of Fame. I mean, I know it's unlike me to do that.
But Potsy,
I make the playoffs twice in a row before we start that. I'm showing my age here. I've just been here too long. But sorry, no offense. That's a little ahead of the game. Let's get Peanut Tillman and Olin Kreutz in first.
Right. It was ridiculous, but yet a fun conversation. But
not ridiculous, but it's just
it was a little ridiculous.
Ahead.
It was right.
It's great that we're excited. Normally off season, what would we be talking about? Oh, how can they not be bad? Well, now we're talking about how can they be better. We're so far ahead of where we were, thanks to Ben Johnson. So I have to admit, it's 100%, 99% because of Ben Johnson that we're having these conversations in the offseason that we didn't have before. So just based on that, it's a fair conversation. I take it back.
Well, that's why I said it. Went back to it because we did that to start the show, and you just said that you're giving him carte blanche on the draft. Like,
yeah. So I totally believe in. Yeah.
Right. So I'm wondering, like, when did it crystallize for you that, this is really unusual? The Bears got it right. The head coach is going to be a king, and I trust him. And in essence, at least for now, he cannot do any wrong because he's doing so many good things across the roster and on game day.
Well, I'd say maybe two things off the top of my head. First of all, it's just his record. Every player that he inserted in that offense in Detroit became a player. They lost Hawkinson, they bring in Laporte, and he's a player. It's a second-round draft pick. Everybody was better. So he had that history. I'll tell you the one thing that I think really sold me on Ben Johnson was the way he handled Ozzie Trapillo last year. Because Ozzie Trapillo, if you remember, was a loss. He was not a bust, but that was a guy who was drafted to be the starting left tackle. And not only did he not win that job, but he was moved to right tackle. So you had a situation where your supposed left tackle was playing behind a guy who's going to be there for 10 years. It didn't make any sense. And I kept asking, will someone ask, what is the plan for Ozzie Trapillo? And what I liked about that is two things. First of all, he didn't feel the pressure. He's got confidence. He didn't feel the pressure to legitimize the draft pick by making him a starter when he very well could have started Trapillo from day one. He's only beating out he was only beating out who was it?
Injured Braxton Jones.
Braxton Jones coming off an injury and
undrafted
Bennett. So anyway, he could have done that, and he didn't do that. I like that. But what I like most is that he developed, or somebody under his charge developed Ozzie Trapillo at right tackle into a more than capable left tackle. He wasn't great, but he was certainly good enough that you think, yeah, there's your left tackle of the future. I like the fact that he had the confidence to he didn't force himself to. He wasn't afraid to look bad by benching a guy who should have been to admit a short-term defeat, but also that he developed a player and it worked out, and that impressed me. That means that's something that's universal. If he can do it with that position, he can do it at other positions. That's why I have confidence that the center position won't be an issue because of the way he develops. So it's not just that players play well; it's that he develops talent. He develops players, and I thought that was to me. I don't know. No one else really believes that, I guess, but that's just the thing with me is what he did with Trapillo. Went from a negative to a positive. That's a really good sign of a guy who that's a universal trait. That's something that he can do year to year, different positions. So that's really what sold me. So I can't remember if the question was, why am I so sold on Ben Johnson? It's because of his record, what he's done. And also he's shown that he can develop players. And he also is, acted, with for me, the exception of the whole Matt LaFleur thing, which is kind of silly and not a good look for him. I think he's shown that he's immediately that he's a head coach. And also I think he has the ability to kind of pair back and kind of maybe not be so unlikable to other fan bases, I guess, for lack of a better way of putting it. But anyway, that's why I like him. I think he checks a lot, to use a cliche, checks a lot of boxes of he's not just a good offensive guy. He's more than that. He develops players. And defensive players play for him, all sorts of things. So that's why, and he's by far the most competent guy they got. And the other thing was, sorry to go on, I said this before many times, is, when a guy comes in, any guy who comes in his position, he has to change Halas Hall before Halas Hall changes him. And he has, and there's proof that he has. Swearing is now allowed in the locker room. That's changing Halas Hall. I'm serious about that.
I know. I know you are.
A great example of how, instead of Halas Hall changing him, where, like, if you remember, I made this point before, but where the quarterback apologizes for saying the word stupid in a press conference. Now you got guys just saying F the Packers, F the Packers. That's the Ben Johnson effect. He and the McCaskies are on board with that. Kevin Warren's on board with that. So he's changed them before they've changed him. Now, year 2 was the big difference for Matt Nagy. For Matt Nagy, that's where things kind of fell apart. So we don't know for sure, but we'll see. But anyway, the indications right now are, to me, that he's the one guy they needed, the one oasis of competence, I guess, that they've needed. So that's why I think he's good.
Yeah, I mean,
I tell you. That.
You once eloquently said, like, the key is, can you enter Hallis Hall and not become a worse version of yourself? And I think Ben Johnson proved that he was capable of that, at least in year one. But we'll see how he does here in year two. If you have a few more minutes with us, we got to take a quick timeout, but I wanted to pick your brain a little more about the defense, as long as that's okay with you, Potsy.
Absolutely. I'm retired. I got all day.
Well, I appreciate it. We're never retired. We're always having fun. We're always talking football. Appreciate Potsy joining us. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. When we come back, we'll have a few more minutes with Mark Potash, talk a little bit of defense. But first, a quick shout out to our sponsors.
A reminder, May is Beef Month, and we have been announcing the Bona World Beef Championships. That's BUONA World Beef Championships.
Look how delicious that looks underneath you.
I mean, just straight delicious right there. Eat or share as much beef as you possibly can during the month of May. It's National Beef Month. And this is what you got to do. You got to order for yourself, but also order from your family, for your friends. Do it on the Bona app. Download that right now. Everybody who reaches the 50 beef level, you get 61,400 bonus points. Bona rewards points. You can use that for beefs in the future. Any items. The fries are amazing. Get yourself a hot dog, whatever you want. Get ready to play. Bona rewards start to accumulate once you reach 5 beefs in the month of May. And by the way, the champion's getting $40 every single month for 3 years if you do the most beefs. Download the Bona app. Bona merch is at merch.bona.com. Details, BUONA.com.
Love myself some Bona and love myself some ComEd as well. We appreciate ComEd jumping back on board. And hey, we're all looking for ways to stand out at work, right? Hey, of course you are. That is what you want to do. And what if I told you that there's an easy way to save your company hundreds of thousands of dollars? I know Mark Carmen would jump all over that. He's always looking to save big money here. So just sign up for a free facility assessment from ComEd, and their engineer will give you free insights and actions that could help you save your business on energy costs. How does that sound, Mark? That sounds amazing.
Amazing.
And let me tell you how it works. Basically, they'll create a plan to help you stand out and your business save for free. So visit ComEd.com/facility assessment to learn more. Actual savings may vary on customers' usage and rate. All right, a few more minutes here with the legendary Mark Potash, who's covered Chicago sports for a very long time here in this city and gives some great insights. I wanted to pick your brain because it stood out to me here talking, through the defense and some of the decisions they made, that you think that the Bears defense will be better this year. And there's certainly been some questions. I think we all see some of the speed that they've added, but while there's certainly, from a statistical standpoint, some things you can point to about how bad their defense was last year, they did lose some leaders on that side of the ball. Tremaine Edmonds, Kevin Byard. They did find their way on the doorstep of the NFC Championship, where I think the defense played pretty well in the playoffs at times. So I'm curious, from your perspective, when you see the lack of, additions they made to the defensive line, that why you think that they definitely will be a better defense, because I'm worried about still getting to the quarterback and how this secondary and some new faces, how they're supposed to come together without that quarterback, kind of their clock getting sped up a little more.
Yeah, Greg, I would say definitely. I don't want if I said that, I'm coming on too strong, but I do, and a lot of it is blind faith. I mean, I'll be honest. Why they would move on from Byard and Brisker when those guys signed 1-year contracts, I didn't quite get it. And I know Brisker kind of had liabilities in pass coverage, but his liabilities in pass coverage, not to debate that thing again, but those were all based on the fact that they didn't have a pass rush. When they had a pass rush the year before, Brisker was really good. He was a foundation piece. I didn't understand that. I didn't get that. But I think they're so intent on getting scheme-specific guys for Dennis Allen's defense, that I guess I'm kind of trusting. It's almost like kind of the transitive property. I mean, I trust Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson trusts Dennis Allen. I trust Dennis Allen. I mean, I'm kind of going, I'll be honest, it's not an expert analysis on my part. It's the fact that I think, and also I do agree that and I said this before, that as disappointing as Odengbo and Shamar Turner were when they did play last year, those weren't defining performance samples. I think both can be better this year, depending on when they come back. I'm assuming they will both be back. But anyway, so I think that I agree that's a worthwhile avenue for improvement. That those guys can be better, and I don't think they're defined. So I think they can improve their pass rush. But Devin Bush, I think, is a really good linebacker. He's definitely more cost efficient than Tremaine Edmunds. Is he better? I trusted. I guess I trust that they. Well, I guess they're kind of subtle upgrades. Even Thieneman, I think, will be a kind of what you would think is a subtle upgrade, because he's replacing guys who I think were really good, an all pro, and I think a really good safety. So yeah, no, I'll be honest. I'm just putting more faith in the Bears, that they're pinpointing things for an offense in the second year. I mean, for a defense in the second year of that defense. I think they know better what they need. But I totally agree. If you're going to come back and tell me, hey, there's no way they're going to get how many ever takeaways they got last year, there's no way they can be better, I'm not going to argue against that. I mean, that's a totally legitimate thing. But on the other, big picture wise, I think they're going to be much more capable of winning 47-42 even this year than they were last year. And that's something that they could literally never do. Now they can. So that's why I'm not feeling like the defense is going to just totally pull the rug out from under the Bears, because I think their offense is going to be better. And I think a defense will play better. One last point. I think a defense will play better if they're up 14-0, or if they're up 2 touchdowns early. All of a sudden, that bad defense is not quite as bad when they got a little bit of a cushion. They're not bad players, or it's not that bad of a defense, but all of a sudden you make everyone bet. It's like when you pull the infield in, you make everybody a 300 hitter when you're up by 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Sorry for the mixed metaphor, but anyway, so I think there's factors in their favor. It's all big picture that I think the Bears overall are getting better. Like I said, even if they go like the Lions 9-8, don't make the playoffs in 27-28, they're still going to be on the same path. So I feel good about that. Whereas 5 years from now, you can never say that about the Bears. So I just feel good about it.
Yeah, I think it's a fair point that the defense was holding on for dear life while the offense waited to the fourth quarter to kind of figure things out last year. And I think to your other point about them figuring out how to identify what they need on defense, I made this point a few times during the season last year. I think they kind of proved that with the additions of DeMarco Jackson and CJ Gardner-Johnson in a pinch in the middle of the season, guys they bring in and were instant impact players. So I do think, to your point, they started to figure out a little more, okay, this is what Dennis Allen needs, and kind of executed that vision. Go ahead, Mark.
I think that's a good point, because like I always said, last year, if you took I always say this, that if you look at the top 10 players they brought in to play a starting role or a contributing role, the top 7 were offensive guys, and the bottom 3 that they brought in to start or be, Jarrett, Odengbo, Turner, those were they were at the bottom of the list. But my point is, as you mentioned, Greg, everyone else they put in was an instant hit, in a pinch. Once they had everything going, once they had their defense kind of in place and they saw what they needed, they were much more effective at adding players to the defense. They were much more. The bump they got from the guys they brought in a pinch was much bigger than the guys they brought in the offseason when they didn't quite know what they had. Now they do. And I know we've been burned by that kind of optimism and hope in the past, and so I can't blame anyone for pushing back on that. But I think to me that's a legitimate reason to feel a little bit better than you do about the Bears defense.
Where are you at in the quarterback, Potsy?
I think Caleb Williams should start. Yeah. Is that the question?
Well, the question is.
It's always a question with Carm.
Yeah.
Although at some point, something, you're talking about Ben Johnson. Here's how much I like Ben Johnson. At some point, who's the backup?
His name is Tyson Bagent.
Tyson Bagent. Yeah, sorry. I need to get that.
Thank you.
Tyson Bagent's going to look like a really good quarterback for some team because he's in Ben Johnson's offense. But yeah, Caleb Williams. I think.
Hey, let me rephrase the question, because Colin Cowherd was out there this week, or 5 days ago, now 6 days ago. Put him top 3 if he was drafting right now. Mahomes, Allen. Actually, in the other order, Allen, Mahomes, Caleb. And then Mike Florio was asked about it. He put him second. So
wow,
you're bigger than those two, Potsy, in your media career. Damn it, where are you at? You want? I don't want. You don't have to list it out here, but is that crazy to you? Does that make sense?
I could see why they would say that. I think Caleb Williams has a lot more to prove. Like I said, the one big thing that stuck out to me last year was of all the goals that they had, stated, unstated, whatever, the one they missed by the most was 70% completions for Caleb Williams. And it was at 58, and he was near the bottom of the league. And that is stark to me. And that's kind of a red flag that makes me wonder, is he ever going to be accurate enough to really reach that Mahomes Allen level? And I think that's what this year is all about, is how much of it was, I know I've said this before, how much of it was because they're instilling a new offense and he was inaccurate. How much was it because he was avoiding sacks and which was a good thing. And how much was it his footwork or what mechanics or whatever it is that he just doesn't have it? Because as we've seen in the past, when guys have those mechanics, fundamental issues, and they say, oh yeah, he's going to be, it never happens. All of a sudden, but they're lesser quarterbacks than Caleb Williams, so it could happen. So anyway, my point is I wouldn't put him in that, right? I think this is still a prove-it year. I still think he has to be better earlier in games, and he's great in desperation, but he's got to be more accurate. He just has to be more accurate. But I mean, they're on pace to do that. So yeah, I think that I wouldn't say, oh, you're crazy to think he's as high on those lists, because he certainly could be. He certainly proved it. And he's got the one thing he's got in his pocket that he has is the one thing he can't teach, and that's the ability to take a team that's down in the fourth quarter and will a team to victory and make everybody on the field better. And that's when you've got that, well, then the rest should be easier. Isn't always, but anyway. He's not there yet, but I agree that he could, he could be up there.
Yep, and the ace in his. Go ahead, Carmen. I'm sorry.
Well, I was just gonna let Potsy know on the way out here that when he's done with this interview, there on YouTube from my guy Andrew Hiller, it just dropped 48 hours with Tyson Bagent, and I would highly. I haven't watched it actually myself. Travis just sent it out to the crew here, so I think you should get in there and 48 hours, and I believe my voice is at the very beginning there, along with some other people like David Kaplan. So that's good, afternoon entertainment for a retired guy, Potsy.
Well, I'll say this, Carm. Thanks. I'll say this in some seriousness: if you can combine Tyson Bagent and Caleb Williams as they stand today, then he would definitely be in the top three.
Well, there you
because a lot of things that Tyson Bagent does are exactly what Caleb Williams needs to do, and what Jared Goff in Detroit in Ben Johnson does. Those are the things, but they're fundamental, simple things that can be done, but it's not inevitable. It doesn't. Believe me, I've seen the whole an accuracy thing, fundamentals, footwork thing. And footwork is so important to a quarterback. I know that footwork is the most underrated talent or ability of a quarterback of all. And it's one of those things where it's like a pick and roll in basketball. It seems so simple, but there's a reason why some guys get to the Hall of Fame with it and other guys can't. So it's a little bit tricky, but anyway, yeah, I have hopes that even if he doesn't get there, we all know that he can at least get the Bears. And this is the thing, really, the point, I guess, is that unlike previous Bears quarterbacks, including Cutler, even if Caleb Williams never masters the fundamentals or whatever it takes to be accurate, they're still going to be a contender. They can still win a Super Bowl. You can still win games you shouldn't win. So the floor is so much higher now. It makes the offseason, makes everything about the Bears so much different. Coming from somebody who has watched Bears football for a long time, especially everything since the Ditka era, I think it's so refreshing that the Bears are in this position where you can legitimately be positive about everything they do. So I feel good about what they're doing.
Absolutely. Always feeling good when you got Ben Johnson in your corner.
This is a gold star for you, Potts, even though it's just black and white.
Not a gold star. There's not a gold star. There's no gold there, but always gold with Mark Potash. So appreciate you jumping on. We started with Ben Johnson going to the Hall of Fame, and we ended with Caleb Williams as the second best quarterback in the NFL. And that's what you are to expect when you jump on the CHGO Bears podcast. So appreciate you coming on as always, Potsy, and we'll catch you here down the road.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for remembering me and having me on. I had a good time.
Mark, you're the best. Appreciate you, brother.
Always keep.
Don't worry about the Cubs, Potsy. They'll be fine.
Yeah, we're worried. All right, we're going to take a quick timeout. When we come back, we're going to talk about Mark's favorite topic, that stadium talk. But first, got to give a shout out to our good friends over at Shady Rays. They have been with CHGO from day one, and I love that because they are one of my favorite places to go when I'm looking for sunglasses because they are not stupidly expensive, first and foremost, but seriously good looking, polarized, and durable. Those hit all the marks for me when I'm looking for sunglasses. So now I live and breathe Shady Rays every summer. I'll be wearing my Shady Rays on the golf course tomorrow. Just got a sweet pair down in Arizona at their headquarters. But here's the wild part about Shady Rays. If I lose or break my pair tomorrow on the golf course, or even if I broke my sunglasses on day one, Shady Rays will send me a brand new pair, no guilt trip, just replacements. That's for anybody because Shady Rays has your back. So go to shadyrays.com and use the code CHGOSR for 50% off 2+ pairs of polarized sunglasses. Shout out Shady Rays.
And a shout out to our friends at Game Day Men's Health. When I started going there about, 6-7 months ago, everything hurt. The hips were a problem. The Achilles was a problem. They did the double prong attack on both of them. That was amazing. And they also want to help you if you want some extra testosterone, perhaps a little motivation to get the work done or something else done. That's there for you. They got vitamin supplements. They got weight loss. They got hair loss treatments. And they're doing it for a man 27 years on up. So listen, you want to be a better father, a better husband, better at work, better at anything. I'm telling you, go see our friends at Game Day Men's Health. Tons of locations. Hit that QR code. You're in and out in under an hour. You're going to feel extremely special. They truly show you how much they care there, and they're thrilled to see you. The website's the easiest way to do it. GameDayCHGO.com. GameDayCHGO.com. One more time. GameDayCHGO.com. Your new life is right around the corner.
All right, we're back here on the CHGO Bears podcast with the great Mark Carman, and I'm excited to inform Mark that the door has been opened back up for all his hopes and dreams, and that's from one Marianne Ahern.
State Senator Bill Cunningham, who is the lead negotiator in the state Senate on this mega projects bill, is asking tonight, how will Chicago lawmakers approve tax breaks for a major business to leave the city? He adds, this outreach from the Bears to the city has complicated negotiations for a deal in Arlington Heights.
We learned that there was contact between the Bears and the city sometime in late April where they talked hypothetically about looking back at the lakefront if the Arlington Heights site did not work out. Even if the execution was flawless, this would be difficult. It has been far from flawless. The Bears' actions have breathed life into this notion that Chicago isn't completely out of it. It might be far-fetched, but there's still that hope there.
A separate source close to the negotiations has a different take, says that the Bears went to the city only to discuss parameters of the Soldier Field lease. This source says this is an effort by the mayor to kill the bill that would keep the Bears in Illinois. Marianne Ahern, NBC5 News.
Breathed life back into the Bears, returning to Chicago. Mark Carman. I know Marianne, there's been a little bit of confusion on Twitter with her crediting CHGO Bears for reaching out to the Chicago's mayor. Obviously, she means Chicago Bears, but that's okay. We don't mind the plug. We appreciate you, Mary, for all your hard work on the intel and the shout outs on your tweets, but made it seem like maybe Carm was involved in all of this. But new life with Chicago. Your thoughts, Mark Carman, your hopes and dreams.
See that? Put that tweet back up because that's not how I read it. She just forgot to put the @CHGO Bears podcast reached out to the mayor in late April to ask what, because we did basically. We had him. Isn't that when we had him in?
Did
roughly?
have him on, but she did mean Chicago Bears. Let's be fair to her reporting.
She right. I get it. But good old Bill Cunningham, just putting this out there that the Bears reached out. Well, what happens if it doesn't work out? And then the back end of it, they reached out because they want to figure out the payment. of, hey, if this goes down at this point, then what will we owe you? That makes a whole lot more sense. But of course, what's always made sense has been the Carm proposal, which has been the best proposal, which gets taxpayers out of the $1 billion they're going to end up owing when the Bears leave Soldier Field and go wherever they're going to go, because you'll have the debt on there and then you have to take it to the ground. You're going to have to maintain it. It's just going to be a nightmare that keeps on going. So, of course, Carm's proposal, my proposal, sell the land to the Bears, tax the Bears, get income coming in for however long they're at Soldier Field, which hopefully would be a long time. But look, this is as someone who expects dysfunction in life, as someone who expects things to not go as planned and then just tries to roll with the punches and, just stay steady. This is impressive how many back and forth and roundabouts that this particular venture has taken on. So it is a never say die until it's dead as far as, Chicago's concerned. Certainly as far as Mayor Brandon Johnson is concerned, but, the governor screaming back at him that he has no plan, that left me with, not that I was even thinking Chicago had a chance, Gregory. I've long given up on that, but that really ended it. And then out of nowhere, here comes Cunningham and Ahern. So I don't know what the hell's going to happen here. I'd bet, like I've always bet, that they're going to end up in Arlington Heights. And that the best thing for them is Chicago. And now I'm like, I don't even care if they go to Hammond, because I think Illinois is going to cut a bad deal. So I'm on,
To me, there's two trains of thoughts here, and it's one. If they wanted to take the Indiana deal, they already could have took it. So the fact that the Bears are willing to,
they don't want to go to Indiana,
right. Well, but hold on, because my two trains of thought, I think there's two sides of this coin. I think it's easy to point to they don't want to go to Indiana. They're letting this drag out as long as possible, so Illinois or Chicago or Arlington Heights can get their stuff together so they can get a deal where they want to be, and that's in Illinois. But the other side of that coin is, if they were to go to Indiana, and that is their plan, that all of this posturing that we've had to deal with over the last month as spectators is everyone trying to wash their hands of the blame. And like, that's, if it were to end up in Indiana, then the Bears can sit here and say, well, we did everything we could to work with Chicago and Illinois, and it just didn't work. And the politicians can go, well, look, the Bears weren't working with us because of the road deal. Right? Or the mayor of Chicago can say, I did everything I could. I tried and no one would work with me. And so, like, I think that's the other side of the coin, where everyone seems to be putting out so they can tell their constituents and their voters, hey, look, I did everything I could. Because then the other side of this, and I saw Hogue tweet this out, because I think this is the other part of the reporting, is about the road funds. And this is Hogue's tweet yesterday saying the co-sponsor of the pilot bill, saying this publicly with just 12 days ago, is something. And that was, they have made a substantial request for a commitment to fund infrastructure improvements around Arlington Heights. We can't do that without a traffic study, and the Bears don't have one yet. The Bears are asking for $850 million in capital expenditures from the state. We can't line those things out unless we have a traffic study and we know what those dollars are going to be spent on. Bill Cunningham went so far as to say that there's a chance that the May 31st end of legislative session may not yield a final answer on the Bears question. And he goes on to say May 31st may come and go without a final answer on all of this. So it's a nightmare.
Where that one doesn't add up at all is we had Thomas McDermott, mayor of Hammond, on the show saying the Bears are spending millions, he said, to ascertain whether the slag heap that they're going to build this thing on is buildable. Yet the Bears are unwilling to pay $100,000 for a traffic study? That doesn't make sense. You can't tell me that originally, at bare minimum, they wanted to go to Arlington Heights, that they wouldn't have paid for the traffic study. And yet they're willing to pay millions for the slag heap environmental situation. So that just doesn't make sense. Yeah. So I don't know what to believe here. Well, and I already did my own traffic study. Traffic's going to suck, okay? Traffic's going to suck. 53 sucks. Try going to the Arlington Million back in the day, which was on the weekends. It sucked. It's not people who go to games, they expect bad traffic. Then people are saying, "Oh, that's the worst traffic ever getting to Soldier Field." Okay, well, you're obviously don't understand how many arteries are going into Soldier Field and the way to go about it. So, and the amount of public transportation that goes to that place. And yes, you got to walk a little bit from the L or from the bus or from the Metro or not if you're get off right there at 18th Street Bridge, which that is another Metro that goes literally right there. But the study that become a diehard.
Carm Sweet Bippy. That's what I love about Sweet Bippy. He knows where we're at, and that is as we hit the top of the hour. Make sure to remind you to become a diehard and whatnot. Use that QR code here on your screen. Go to allchgo.com/diehard. Use the code JOHNS, JAHNS, for $36 for the entire year. And with that diehard subscription, you're going to get a free shirt as soon as you sign up. You're going to get discounts on events, including, as we just announced earlier today, our CHGO road trip to Miami. Very excited for that. If you go to allchgo.com/events, you can see all the details for that. More quickly around the corner here, we have our first golf outing, the great big CHGO scramble at White Deer Run Golf Course, Friday, June 26th, a 9 a.m. shotgun start. Once again, if you're a diehard, you get a discount on that event. And we're going to Green Bay, October 11th, I believe, here coming up week 5 of the regular season. So many different things that if you become a diehard, you have those advantages of discounts, free shirt, exclusive written content from Hogue, Johns, Carm, Patrick Norton, and beyond. And obviously you're showing a lot of support to what we do here. So use that code JHNS and come on out to some of these events. We look forward to seeing you.
Yeah. Those are the things that we do know. The things we do know about where the Bears will end up is 0. What we do know about us is come to Miami, come to Green Bay, come hang out at the golf outing June 26th for our friends at Big Brothers, Big Sisters. Great job by Carm Sweet Bippy. Listen, maybe by Monday after we get through Memorial Day or Tuesday after we get through Memorial Day weekend, there will be something different, but I doubt it. So we're just going to plod into June like a quarter horse with,
and that's why like I could have easily, we could have started the show with the stadium stuff. I think most fans are worn out by it at this point, but it is certainly a point of, topic of conversation right now. So we had to make sure we talked about it today, but I wanted to have a little fun. Thank you for indulging me with my dreams of Ben Johnson and his Hall of Fame speech. Now I will say, I'm batting 1,000 in my Hall of Fame predictions in my lifetime for Bears players. I won't mention how many I got wrong with the 2016 Cubs because I think it was like 8 guys that I had in the Hall of Fame at that point. Really excited about that team. But I've only predicted one person ever affiliated with the Chicago Bears organization to go to the Hall of Fame, and that was Devin Hester. Before he even took a snap with the Bears, you can ask my friends, I predicted he would be in the Hall of Fame, and then he did. Thank you very much. So I am sitting here saying Ben Johnson is now number 2 in my Bears predictions. Guarantee, mark it down. 20 years from now, Ben Johnson Hall of Fame induction speech in Canton, Ohio.
All right. It's on the board. I'm not going to push back. I think that's great. May 21, the day Greg Braggs drove the show to the top of the mountain, he predicted Ben would end up in Canton.
Jim Richels in the chat saying that I predicted Justin Fields was a Hall of Famer. That's incorrect. I did say that he was their franchise quarterback. That did come out of my mouth on shows that we did, so I'll give you that one, Chim. I was wrong there, okay? I got too excited. Sometimes I get excited, Chim. And Chim and Don Burr have been incessant in the chat today. It's really disappointing. We're heading into the Memorial Day weekend. All you're doing is annoying Bears fans, and you know what? Like, it wasn't that long ago you guys were 0-16. So just humble yourselves a little bit.
Just put the Miami trip up there one more time.
And I also will remind, I can't remember if it was Chim or Don, but one of them disappeared when the Lions didn't make the playoffs for like a month. So that person, whichever one of the two of you idiots, that one isn't allowed to talk. but I'll put the Miami thing back up. There you go, Mark.
So our 3-night pack is, just to get down to brass tacks here. If you're going by yourself, airfare, hotel, every event we're doing, from the tailgate to the boat cruise, everything going on, by yourself, $27.95. With a friend, $22.95 per person. With 2 other friends, $21.95 per person. 3 nights, flight, hotel, events, ticket, all of it. Never cheap, but I think that's a pretty decent price for an amazing weekend down to Miami, round trip airfare, tickets to the game, hotel, great hotel. The Westin's amazing. And we're going to have a ton of fun events, cruises and tailgates and whatnot. So, I think it's priced, none of these things are ever cheap nowadays because, the NFL is the NFL and flights are flights and all that. But I think that's a pretty good price. And it's a $250 deposit today. So come on in. We'd love to have you.
Well, and I think the thing, I agree with you in terms of like, hey, if you're going to go on a trip like this, you're going to spend a little bit. But the fans that came with us to London, the fans that came with us to Arizona or Las Vegas, we always do a really great job of putting all this stuff together. And I've yet to have a person that has been able to, be lucky enough to be able to afford a trip like that to come out. I've yet to meet one of our fans that have come that didn't like their experience. So I'm telling you, we're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to be doing a lot of different things, and I'll be partying with you guys from sun up to sundown. You know that. I'm excited to go to Miami. Never been there before. And as you said, the thick of the playoff race at that point in December, an AFC matchup game. So it's going to be interesting to see where the Bears are at in their season. So it's going to be, in terms of what's on the line, it's going to have a much different feel than that Raiders game in Las Vegas last year, which was one of the best experiences I've ever had in my life in the stands, lifting a young Stevie in the air. And we cannot leave this show without wishing our super producer, who we miss dearly today, a happy birthday. Stephen Nicholas has some family things that he's sorting out and on the road and traveling with his family. So shout out to him and love him and love his shout out and all the love to his family, but a happy birthday to a young Stevie Nicholas.
Steven's the greatest. I miss him desperately today with you doing whatever you're doing over there, but thank you for doing it because you're an unbelievable team.
How did I do?
You were fantastic as always. I was inspired. Steven is 22 years old, peanut head, and in the prime of his life. Actually, do you know how old is Steven? I have no idea. 30, 29, 28, somewhere in there?
No, he's older than that. But I don't know. Yeah, he's like 34 or something, 33, something like that. He's going to be mad that I don't know this, but I don't know.
Well,
he's in his 30s, though.
You guys do spend a lot of time together. All right, have a great weekend, everybody. I'll let Greg close out the show. I'd like to wish a happy birthday to my amazing older brother, Bruce Carmen, who taught me everything I know, from how to root for Michael Jordan to how to hit the forehand, backhand, and the value of the wood tennis racket over the modern stuff that they use today that has ruined tennis. So we're having a nice dinner for Big Brucey tonight, my guy, and who's also the father of the amazing Grace Carmen, the greatest soccer player out there. Go check her out in her sophomore year, Brandeis University, honorable mention, all conference last year. That's what I'm talking about as a freshman, one of 2 players on the team. So we can end it there. And by the way, I'm in the semifinals. Thank you. Shout out to the Midtown.
When is that? When is that?
I'll either be next Tuesday or Wednesday night. I'm actually going to put in for Wednesday night because
when's the championship? If you were to get through,
it would be the following week. That would be the following week.
Right. If you get to the championship, I will do everything I can to be there in attendance.
You're coming out to.
If you get to the championship, I will be there, unless you don't want me there.
No, I'd love you there. That'd be amazing. Okay. I don't believe that she'll do that at.
I will.
At 9:30 at night
If you get to the championship, I will make Hogue. We are going.
Okay.
Okay. Let's finish things off with the Iceberg, who's using his YouTube membership deal. When you become a YouTube member, sometimes we get gifted from different people. Iceberg's gifted YouTube memberships. You get a free super chat, and here's his here. And he says, "Enough is enough, Pizzatola. Carm is a regional treasure. I am here now and always will be to support the Chicago sports god named Mark Carmen. Let's go, Carm.
Yeah, and I will allow the iceberg to spell my name wrong. It's M-A-N, but that's okay. And I appreciate it because the iceberg's my hero. The iceberg is first class. The iceberg is our leader alongside Greg and Hogue. And Pizzatola belongs in prison. So hopefully, that'll happen one of these days. But, for the time being, we'll just have to suffer with him as a free man. Yeah. Thank you, Torian. 6-4-7-5 would be a great score for next week. I'm climbing uphill. We'll take hey, listen, I'll split sets and win out in a 10-point, which has happened last week, whatever it is. But I do think I got a shot. I'm not gonna lie. I played pretty well right now. Was in the pool yesterday, getting it loose. Did the 38-minute pool workout. Did a 20-minute tread. Got in the old sauna in Midtown and loosened it up. It was awesome.
Look at this. You're on a championship trajectory because of tennis. In your tennis game, I broke 90 at Medina 3. I think we have all of this to thank to Game Day Men's Health getting us on the right track and,
that's right.
and our peak physical condition. So that's it. That wraps things up for today. Thank you guys for indulging me. Let me drive the show here, on a fun Thursday afternoon. Send you into your Memorial Day weekend. Enjoy your extended weekend with your friends and family. And we will be back next Tuesday with probably 3 shows, if I had to guess. I know After Dark will be that night. CHGO Bears will be at 1. We're going to have a whole bunch of stuff. OTA start next week. Hogan Johns just put out their OTA preview on the Hogan Johns podcast. So make sure you go check that out as well. So much content, even though we're in the middle of the off season. And that's why you guys are the diehards, and that's why we appreciate you. So once again, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and become a diehard. But thank you to all of you, as always, for tuning in. And as I always like to say to finish shows, keep your head up and always bear down.
We all silly like the mayor.